Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to Shelf Stories, the channel that tells tales from games, books, and life. I'm your host, Jason. Thank you so much for stopping by for the latest episode of Thinking Out Loud. This is a follow-up episode to the previous one where I was privileged to be joined by Geoff Engelstein, game designer extraordinaire, and we talked about blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFT, these weirdo things that didn't really exist in the board gaming community discourse as of a couple of years ago, but now we're talking about it, and as consumers, we have these new products that we can potentially buy, and our companies are engaging in these things, these blockchains and these cryptos and everything, and we're trying to figure out how to make heads or tails. I like to open my space as a salon to discuss and educate, even for folks like me who don't know anything about this stuff. I think I've achieved 7-year-old understanding of the current situation, but I am hopeful that the previous conversation will provide some insight as well as this follow-up. So this is going to be a very, very unique follow-up. The conversation definitely went in a certain direction, had a certain perspective, and I stand by that conversation, but I wanted to try to give something of the other side that my understanding has deepened as a result of conversations that I've had with people who think a little bit differently. So I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but before I get to that, I wanted to thank every single person who continues to engage in Shelf Stories. And what I ask is to spread the word, like and subscribe and post and just all that stuff. I do not run a Patreon. I'll never monetize the space. I want to keep it clear for discussion, so I appreciate every single person who takes the time to share out what I'm doing here. Want to specifically call out David Thompson. Hi, David. I know you're watching. He was in a couple of threads that I saw just, on his own, talking about, hey, look, this is a great discussion. Go ahead and take a look. I want to thank James Hudson from Skybound Games, who will be back on the show in a couple of months. Who retweeted and say, go ahead and check this person out, see what he's doing, worth your time. That is the kind of thing that would be really, really helpful to increase visibility and increase the conversation, raise the level of conversation in the board gaming space. That is what Shelf Stories is all about. So for this follow-up, I'm going to do something that I haven't done in other follow-ups before. So I'm going to try something new here. So the conversation with Geoff had a perspective. So we tried to, talk about blockchains and cryptos and as, objective a way as possible, kind of measuring the pluses and the minuses, seeing where the tech is going to go. When it came to NFTs, Geoff was a lot more skeptical, relating it to buying a star. And, you're spending your money, you get a piece of paper, but it's ultimately meaningless. There's no there. And so Geoff was very skeptical about where the value was and whether this was just kind of a scheme to soak people from their money. And once again, that conversation not going anywhere. I'm going to keep that conversation up. However, I had a lot of people reach out to me privately, at different channels, publishers, and also fans of NFTs, saying, this is not the whole story. Please try to do what you can to share the whole story, educate yourself. So I'm like, all right, I love being educated. And I was actually invited to a private Discord server, not closed, by the way, just, something that was not, advertised. Very friendly people, just normal people that, sharing their stories of buying NFTs and, sharing their perspectives on what it is. So as far as possible, I want to represent that side of the argument. This is not necessarily what I believe, Jason. I'm still forming my own opinions about them. And I want to try, though, to represent that side as much as possible so that people who are watching can form their own opinions in and of themselves. I'll do the best I can to present the strongest argument possible as I know it. And I'll continue to hold the door open to anyone who wants to come on the show and discuss further, no matter what your perspective. Okay, so now I'm going to adopt the identity of the NFT person. I am the booster. I am going to sell you as much as possible on why these things are good. I don't want to sell you an NFT, but I just want to kind of share the perspective on why they could be good. Pretty much every conversation that I have in the space starts in the same area, which is to ask the question, what is value? When two people or two entities agree to buy and sell a thing, what determines the value of that thing? And this is not controversial, even if it isn't always understood. This is basically out of every one-on-one textbook that you get in an econ class. A value of a thing is in what the person is willing to pay for it. The person could sell it for whatever they want, If they find a buyer that is willing to pay that price, then the value of the thing is that price. Period, point blank, end of story. So then when it comes to, these collectibles, when it comes to useful stuff, relative to how useful it is, then we can kind of determine value there. But when it comes to collectibles, it's all emotional, subjective. Art, aesthetic stuff, or memorabilia, or, things that just resonate emotionally. It's so subjective. So how can we talk about what the thing is worth to somebody? So, we've talked about memorabilia. We've had the conversation about memorabilia for a very, very long time. So when Geoff was on the show, he mentioned Beanie Babies. And Beanie Babies are, if you don't know, you have to be kind of Gen Z and before in order to know what a Beanie Baby is. They were in the 90s, and they were these limited run stuffed animals. That's all they are. And they were so limited, and also, there were manufacturing defects in some of them, misprintings in the tags and everything. And so the rarer the thing was, the more valuable it became for people. So there was this big bubble about it. People are buying up BB Babies, selling them, reselling them for tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Eventually, like a lot of things, the bubble burst. And, we're right to call that out. I was like, wow, well, there was no real there, was there? But was there? Today, 2021 going into 2022 as I record this video, we're talking decades after the original thing. You can still find Beanie Babies that sell on eBay for $10,000, $8,000. If you had bought a Beanie Baby and you, for whatever reason, held on to it, or you just kind of got one from the wherevers, you could still convert that to real value because someone is willing to pay for that value for no other reason. We can cast our judgments. We can, think a certain way. That sounds stupid, but to that person and to their emotional state, whether they're doing it for the emotion or whether they just, want to flip it, who are we to say? Honestly, that is how our system is built. I am wearing a New York shirt here. I'm a big Yankees fan of the New York baseball team. And, I'm not much of a memorabilia person myself, but I totally get how folks could want the last bat from Derek Jeter's last at bat, or the last ball from the strikeout of Mariano Rivera during his last game. Classic Yankees. There are millions of bats and millions of balls. They're all basically the same, but I want that ball and that bat. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but it makes sense to the people who are fans and devotees of the thing. And just to underscore the aspect of uselessness of memorabilia, let me go ahead and point out Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling was a pitcher for the 2004 Boston Red Sox. A memory that I have tried to strike from my imagination as a Yankee fan. They won the World Series for the first time in 100 years. In 2004, a memorabilia from that particular run was the Bloody Sock, where Curt Schilling apparently had a ruptured Achilles, allegedly. And, the blood was seeping through a sock, and he ended up pitching through the game anyway. Part of the legendary one that won them the championship. So going currently for almost $100,000, or will be put at the expected sale price is somewhere around there. And who knows, it may even go up. It just depends on what people are willing to pay. And it's for a bloody sock, people. So there is that one counter argument to NFTs that, like, okay, I'm not really getting a thing. It's a digital art asset. I don't have a real thing here. That's a bloody sock. That's useless and it's kind of disgusting. But it doesn't matter. It's about what people are willing to pay. That is its value. All right, so let's drill down on that a little bit, because as silly as it might be to an objective person to own a sock and say it's like this valuable thing, at the very least, if it's a material thing, then I can prove its uniqueness. There is going to be no other sock. They may be similar socks, maybe, socks that you can recreate, from, patterns and everything, but that is the one sock. It is, I can do things to prove its uniqueness. I could carbon date the blood. That's what people do with fine art, like there's counterfeits all the time, but then, you get into the carbon dating, you get into all the different verifications. There's a whole industry of appraisal to show people that this is the original thing all along, any collectible whatsoever. So then when it comes to digital art assets, I can't do that. I cannot say this is the original thing, because that's not the point of the internet. The point of the internet is to make fungible, replicable things all over the place. If I make one digital art asset, whether it's a PNG or a JPEG, kind of a still image, or whether it's a short little animation or maybe even longer or whatever it is, then with my computer, I can replicate it all over the world, which is different than like an individual sock, which is a material thing that is unique and replicable. So how can I say that I own a thing that is so easily replicated, by anyone who has a computer? The answer is the blockchain. That is one of the things that people really wanted me to understand, is like to really get into what this blockchain is actually doing. And, it's super complicated, and there's all these things in terms of recognizing the underlying mechanism. But, people kind of told me that I don't have to understand. It's like, I don't have to understand my car in order to drive it. I don't have to understand my wash machine in order to put clothes in it. It's just like a blockchain. Just understand the basic function of it, which is, as we said on the last show with Geoff, was to create that record of verifiable ownership. Once that transaction happens, it's there on the blockchain and it's there for all to see. So then I got a chance to look at some of the existing blockchain coverages. You can log on to websites and you can see it right there. It is a ledger, and there's a trust factor here. So you have to trust that the blockchain is actually doing what it's doing. That's where you get community buy-in. You have enough people saying trust this, then there's only there's only so far your skepticism will take you. This community is saying here is a public ledger backed up by all sorts of computer engineering, where I am taking this digital art asset now, and I've gotten it from some valid source that, in the best of worlds, links back to the creator of the thing. So, creators are creating these NFTs, digital art assets, and they sell to a person. And even if that thing gets resold over and over again, there will be a ledger that will link back to the original creator of the thing. So then that's the counter argument to anybody who, what they kind of derisively call the right-click savers, at least people who defend the NFT side of things. So then, someone will purchase an NFT and they'll post it up. Let's say they purchased an NFT. I think Nike just did their first NFT, the shoe company. And someone posted, I just got an NFT of a Nike sneaker or whatever, some rare Air Jordan or whatever. And then you have this army of people who went like, right-click, save, I have the thing too. How silly are you? You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on your thing, and I right-clicked and I got the same exact thing. How silly is that? This is a scam. The pro NFT person is going, not getting the point, people. I have something that none of y'all have. I have that link on the blockchain. I can verify ownership of the thing. Go ahead and try to sell your right-click thing. Go ahead and, go ahead and find a buyer for it. Good luck. I can find a buyer for it, and I can sell it for however much somebody's willing to pay, because I have that thing that you don't have, which is a link to verifiable ownership that exists, and anybody can see it on whatever blockchain that they are purchasing it from. The Ethereum blockchain has a lot of NFTs, but there's many at this point that are engaging in the NFT system. And if you really think about it, that's how the world runs. Everything of significant value, you got to prove ownership. Otherwise, it doesn't have a value, especially doesn't have transfer value. Your home you need the title for it, or you need the deed for the home, or else you're a squatter on the home. I have, bought cars in my life, or I've, sold cars and bought used cars or whatever it is, those transfers. But what's the thing that you do in those transfers is, where's the title? The keys, the actual car themselves don't matter. Where is the title? Once you exchange that title, once you get that notarized and you get the signatures on there, ownership has been transferred. That is the thing that is real and has real world impact that matters. And in the digital space, we've what the community has done is basically come up with a new way to transfer ownership that is completely digital. And you need the blockchain because it's that permanent verifiable record. Can't do it in previous systems. You can do it on the blockchain. Maybe there's other systems, but this is the system that we have right now of public verifiable ownership. And now I have a thing that the right-click savers, quote unquote, don't have. So there's the resale value of it. Like, I can't sell the thing without having being able to point someone to, that link on the blockchain, or, it doesn't even have to be a link on the blockchain to like a digital asset stored somewhere else. Like I've learned that you can actually store the asset on the blockchain itself. So let's say it is a company and they're selling some kind of NFT, a digital art asset, and they go out of business and they disappear. There are ways to ensure that the person has ownership of the thing if they want it. Past that, they negotiate that. I'm going to put it on the blockchain, or I'm going to give you the original files, or give access in some way. Obviously, there's room for scamming, and a lot of scams that happen. And I'll say a lot more about scamming down the road, but it's not inherent in the system. A lot of what I got from a lot of these communities is that there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of negotiation with the creator and with the buyer, or with the buyer and someone who is selling it to somebody else. There's a lot of open negotiation, and that's still getting worked out, but it doesn't make it like fuzzy in a scam or that kind of thing. So the transaction piece is there, backed up by the blockchain. Also, people who buy NFTs, oftentimes they become part of kind of a community of stuff. So like there are a lot of creators out there, more and more, that are, they're not just selling the NFT, they sell more products. Like, okay, buy this NFT and get this extra thing, or become part of our community, get the invitation to this, whatever it is. One really fun practice I heard was about airdrops. So like, a company or an artist, in this case, will have an NFT, sold it to a couple of people, or sold different aspects, and they have the record. And whoever owns their NFT, airdrop. More stuff. Just here you go. We are now part of a community backed up by this blockchain. It's not just backed up by no reason. It's backed up by this record of ownership. You either buy that, you either understand it, or you don't. But don't say it's fake, because there's real stuff that goes into the blockchain, which represents the foundation to everything else that's happening. And here's one last bit of good news. NFTs can be a force for evil, but they can also be a force for a lot of good. So I saw this just independently of everything else. One of the creators that I follow, and I really respect his work, Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez. He is a longtime comic book artist, a Puerto Rican, always doing stuff for Puerto Rican visibility and helping the island through various all the things that we go through. Recently put up their own NFT. For a comic book character, La Boriqueña, which is his own creation, which he has produced a couple of graphic novels for. New NFT, proceeds for it are going to aspects of whatever it is, Puerto Rican recovery and helping the island, all that kind of thing. How am I going to say no to that? No matter what I think, personally, Jason, or whether I'm an NFT person, if someone is willing to see value in what Edgardo is putting out, and they're willing to spend their money towards helping Puerto Rico in a way that they wouldn't have done otherwise, because we're human beings. We'd like to think we're all empathetic, but most of us we want something for our money. And if an entity can provide that value for somebody, and that money can go provide real material help for somebody, then who am I to say? So as I close out this discussion, again, from the NFT booster perspective, there are issues, and they are being discussed in the NFT community, at least amongst the people with whom I spoke. First of all, being the environment stuff, how, as described in Geoff's podcast, blockchains just inherently have more of environmental cost than other ways of storing and data and recording transfers. So then that is being discussed, the whole proof of work versus proof of stake versus some other things that are happening. Some of the earliest blockchains are real environment suckers, and then they've been in development. And, as pressure happens and as more discussion happens, more options are open where maybe there'll be some blockchains or another evolution of the technology that will be more environmentally friendly. That is being discussed in the community in an open-ended way. So, no answers, just lines of discussion. And then there's the issue of theft, which is a real bad problem in the NFT space. The idea that a person who did not create an original piece of art, whether it's physical, whether it's digital, a person comes in after the fact and puts it on the blockchain and makes it, quote unquote, their own and sells it without the original artist benefiting. That is theft in our system. We have intellectual property. We value creators and their creations. And so NFT, the system seems like a scheme to rob people who are not participating in the system for whatever their reasons, rob them of value and, appropriate value for their own and kind of run off and do their thing. And there's also just like the shady people who, will put up a Kickstarter for it or put up whatever, and they'll get all this money, but they don't deliver anything. They're gone. And so, it's very much a Wild West aspect to it. And, I think I have gotten a lot of feedback that says that is a crappy thing to do. There is a lot of agreement among the people I talk to that, yes, theft is bad. And, there is a hope that along the way, systems will come in place, regulations will come in place, whether it's from within the system or from outside somehow, that will kind of bring some more stability to the system and reduce the level of theft as much as possible. It is an open question whether these answers will come in time. People are moving on. The NFT train has left the station in so many ways. I read this in Kotaku. Ubisoft is just moving forward. NFTs all over the place. This is the beginning, of evolution that, including microtransactions, all the other stuff that gamers hate. Now we have NFTs and we have even more stuff coming when it comes to Ubisoft. Kickstarter moving to a blockchain, the Celo blockchain. And a lot of publishers are kind of asking questions. So is that a snap judgment? It has to be said that the CEO of Kickstarter or all these other places aren't giving great answers. If this was such a great thing for creators, then why can't we get straight answers about what value are we getting that we didn't have before? So then there is this skepticism that, against NFTs, that they'll be able to respond quickly enough to their promises. And within the NFT community, that is being discussed. Are there any answers? Not really, but at least what the NFT community is asking for is that they, to the recognition that they're grappling with this stuff too. And to be able to slow things down and come up with ideas together, as opposed to those quick snap judgments. All right, end scene. I'm back. Jason's back to share perspective. And at the end of the day, I'm still learning. And I really try. And I've done this the entire time, but this is the first time I've done this on video for you is, enter into the other person's perspective as a exercise in empathy and figure out, okay, there's more than one person doing this. And there's some non-grifters in that space and they're really defending it. So it's like, okay, did the best that I could to represent that perspective. And I'm just going to present it to you, not giving any recommendation one way or the other. Just keep an open mind, continue the discussion. So did I convince anybody one way or the other? What side of the argument do you buy? If you are an NFT booster, how did I do? Are there other aspects of the argument that you would like to foreground? At the end of the day, I think that there is agreement along anyone who is engaging in my space that the value is in the discussion. Ultimately, we want the best things for our gaming space. And ultimately, whatever is best for the gaming space, that's what I want. So there is no agreement on how and what the best things are. So let's just continue the conversation and figure out what that is so we can get this together. If you change your mind, you can change the world, people. So until next time, later, everybody.